But the 1980s brought a new era, and the political climate on the environment changed. The winds of deregulation were blowing through Washington, especially during the Reagan years.
It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed. It is my intention to curb the size and influence of the federal establishment.
There's no question that the Reagan administration, in fact, brought to Washington a deregulatory agenda. I remember back in the Reagan days of seeing memos that would come out from the White House to the Chamber of Commerce and other big businesses, asking them for a list of regulations from which they would want relief.
Environmental regulation was a prime target of the Reagan White House for giving relief to American business.
The Reagan administration essentially gutted the EPA. They stopped it in its tracks for a period of 6-7 years. Reagan and his White House appointed people to run the Environmental Protection Agency who were flat out opposed to the mission of the agency and were set to undo that mission.
The Reagan administration not only handcuffed EPA on enforcement, it shifted to a new strategy of voluntary compliance, a strategy typified by the Reagan EPA's new program for Chesapeake Bay.
What we created in the Chesapeake Bay was a grand experiment. It was going to be an alternative to the regulatory approach that had swept the EPA, that had swept the federal system. They were going to try to do this in a non-regulatory, cooperative manner.
The new approach was long on promises and targets, but short on hard deadlines and clear accountability.
It is a voluntary program. You are never going to effectively deal with a multi-state pollution problem with a voluntary program.
The result was the Chesapeake Bay program repeatedly missed its targets, leaving unfulfilled the Clean Water Act's promise to radically reduce water pollution. I saw the consequences of how deregulation has played out here on the Chesapeake Bay's eastern shore, where huge factory-scale farms now dominate the landscape, and where half the pollution flowing into the bay, much of it from agriculture, remains essentially unregulated. I'd come here to meet Rick Dove, a professional photographer and environmental consultant, who under the authority of the Clean Water Act has been gathering information for a potential citizens' lawsuit against agricultural polluters. Dove took me up on a small plane and gave me a bird's-eye view of his detective work on the Chesapeake Bay watershed.
You actually get a really clear picture up here. It's almost like a diagram up here, looking at it. That's one of the interesting things about flying, and that is that there are no trespassing signs. You can look straight down, and you can see everything you need to see. You can document it. And
Dove is investigating the pollution from big chicken farms. As we fly, he points out rows of long, flat sheds, each a couple of hundred yards long, each holding up to 40,000 chickens.
No matter where you fly on the eastern shore, it's loaded with these chicken farms. That's
The problem is where there are chickens, there's manure.
It's everywhere.
We know there's bad stuff in poultry waste. Once it gets in those ditches, and once those ditches begin to flow down to all these rivers on the eastern shore, it's on its way to the bay. These rivers are delivery systems. Whatever nutrients are flowing in that river are being delivered to the bay.
Chicken manure is loaded with nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. Remember the dead zones in the bay? They were caused by algae, which is fed by nitrogen and phosphorus.
We'll shoot 400, 500, 600 pictures in an afternoon, and we're going to blow them up, and we're going to take a look at all the details, because that's how you really are able to identify exactly how that poultry waste is leaving that farm and getting to the bay. Today, some of the pictures I took, we're going to go to the site, and we're going to see that on the ground.
The aerial photos lead Dove to a chicken farm he's been watching for more than a year. That's Lessig up there?
Yes, it is. That's Lessig's farm right there. There's 4 barns on the right are the original barns, and the last year he's added these 2 on the end over
Well, that's a
here.
pretty big place. We're talking 240, 250,000 chickens there at any one time. Let's take a look. Dove can check on farm runoff from public roadways. And the photos give him a clear map of how polluted rainwater moves from the farm to the bay.
This is the Lessig farm. This is animal waste, poultry litter.
Big piles of it.
Yeah, it is a big pile, but what's really alarming about this is you can see what's happened when it's rained. All of this water has collected around it, and it has formed some leachate. And you can see how this leachate is running down alongside in between these barns.
With all the stuff in it.
With whatever it's collecting from that poultry waste.
Right.
It comes out of these pipes here, comes in there, comes over to here, and then it goes under the road and right on down to the Minokan River, or right on out to the bay.
Wow. And have you tested this water right here?
This is where we've tested it, here, there.
And what kind of readings you get?
Extremely high. The E. coli standard is 126 colonies. Theirs was 48,392. And
how about
nitrogen and phosphorus, all elevated, clearly indicating that animal waste is involved here, and even arsenic at 9 times what the normal background level would be. So there's a lot happening here. Now, you know,
Farm owner Aaron Lessig did not respond to Frontline's repeated efforts to ask him about the water tests, which Dove's team turned over to the EPA. So look who he's growing for. Lessig is growing these chickens for Purdue.
Yeah. Whatever the sign advertised says it's Purdue, Lessig Farm.
Every Purdue chicken has one of these tags on it. It means you're getting a fresh, tender, tasty young chicken. I make sure of that, because every one of these tags has my name on it.
Over 5 decades, Purdue Farms grew from a family business to the dominant poultry processor on the Chesapeake's eastern shore. And as Purdue grew, it transformed the chicken industry.
There used to be 200 companies on the shore involved in the poultry industry, but they were all independent. So you had an independent hatchery, an independent processing plant. The story of the poultry industry and of Purdue is vertical integration.
Integration meant a few big chicken companies controlling all aspects of production. Purdue mushroomed into a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Small family chicken farms became chicken factories.
Well, I think capitalism in general stimulates efficiency, and efficiency often is size. And so, you know, I think things had to become bigger in order to keep costs lower so you could maintain, you know, your price structure.
Factory-style poultry production drove down chicken prices, and Americans responded. Over the past 50 years, per capita consumption of chicken has tripled. But there's been another price to all those cheap chickens.
Poultry farming, like most animal farming, has become much more intense, much more concentrated. Where you had 50,000 chickens on a given plot of ground, you've got 500,000 or 2 million now, which produces a huge problem of what to do with the manure.
In 2008, Delmarva Peninsula Poultry Farms raised more than 570 million chickens, and all those chickens produced massive mountains of manure, 1.5 billion pounds a year. That's more manure than the annual human waste from 4 big cities, New York, Washington, San Francisco, and Atlanta, all put together. Before mass production chicken farms, local crop farmers used to absorb the chicken manure. Now there's way too much for them to absorb.
Agriculture is by far the largest source of pollution to the Chesapeake Bay, and it is arguably the single biggest source of pollution to all of the waters in the country.
So the problem isn't just manure, but it's too much manure.
It's too much manure and arguably too many animals under the current structure. Now, there's
You mean too many animals in one place?
Exactly.
It's a problem all over the country.